In case you don't feel like watching the whole documentary, here are some morbid facts about Ed Gein. Ed Gein is one of the most disturbing killers in American history, not because of how many people he killed, but because of what police found inside of his farmhouse. Although he was only confirmed to have murdered 2 women, he spent years digging up corpses of women who looked like his mother, whom he was obsessed with, and bringing them home to turn their bodies into art pieces. When investigators entered his home, they found a nightmarish scene straight out of a horror movie. Bowls made from human skulls, chairs upholstered with skin, masks of faces peeled from corpses hung on the walls, a box filled with severed noses, and even lips nailed to a window shade pull cord. He had a belt made of nipples and made corsets and leggings out of human skin, all part of his plan to build a full woman suit so he could wear it and become his dead mother. Ed even admitted he tried to dig up his own mother's corpse, but gave up because she was too heavy. One of his 2 victims, Bernice Warden's body, was found hanging upside down in his shed, gutted like a deer, and police also discovered a human heart in a paper bag near the stove because he wanted to cook it later. Neighbors later reported seeing a strange female figure dancing in the moonlight on his property, most likely Gein wearing one of his skin suits outside. The horror was so extreme that multiple officers who investigated his farmhouse quit the force from trauma, and despite his house being a rotting, corpse-filled disaster, he kept his mother's bedroom pristine and untouched like a shrine. Perhaps the most chilling part of all was that the townspeople thought he was completely harmless. He babysat their kids and did chores while secretly wearing the dead in his spare time. Declared insane rather than executed, he lived quietly in a mental institution doing arts and crafts with paper instead of human body parts, until his death when people robbed his grave and stole his headstone as a trophy. Ed Gein's crimes were so grotesque and twisted that he became the direct inspiration for characters like Norman Bates, Leatherface, and Buffalo Bill, forever defining the skin-wearing, mother-obsessed killer in horror. This was the tragic moment when just a single pitch pushed an MLB player to suicide. On October 12, 1986, Angels relief pitcher Donnie Moore was just 1 strike away from sending his team to the World Series when he gave up a devastating home run to Boston's Dave Henderson in Game 5 of the ALCS. The Angels went on to lose the game, the series, and fans never forgave him. Even though the loss wasn't entirely his fault, Moore became the public scapegoat. He was relentlessly booed, received hate mail and death threats, and was blamed for cursing the team. The moment single-handedly destroyed his career and mental health. He spiraled into depression, injuries, alcoholism, and financial stress. For years, he lived with the unbearable guilt of that one pitch, famously saying, "I relive it every day." In July of 1989, consumed with anger and despair, he shot his wife during an argument, then turned the gun on himself in front of one of their children. His wife survived, but Moore died at just 35 years old. One of the most tragic examples of how a single moment in sports can lead to a real-life nightmare. Morbid Facts, Part 251. 3 of the main actors on the TV show Glee all died in their 30s. Corey Monteith died at age 31 in the same way that his father did in the show, from an accidental overdose. 35-year-old Mark Salling took his own life in 2018, just 3 months after being sentenced to 7 years in prison for possession of CP. And 33-year-old Naya Rivera went missing in 2020 when her 4-year-old son was found alone on the rental boat in California. The boy claimed he watched her drown after she lifted him aboard but ran out of the energy to pull herself up. In 2008, 23-year-old Rachel Hoffman was arrested for possession of marijuana and was facing 4 years in prison. Police told her that the only way to get out of the prison time was to become a confidential informant. She agreed, and her first undercover drug purchase would have been the biggest in Florida history. Police told her to buy 1,500 pills as well as a gun from some dealers. But the dealers found the wire in her purse and she was promptly murdered. Morbid Facts, Part 761. In 2010, 7-year-old Ayanna Stanley Jones was sleeping on her grandmother's couch in Detroit when a police raid quickly turned deadly. Officers were filming for the A&E show The First 48 as they stormed the home in search of a murder suspect, tossing in a flash grenade before bursting through the door. Within seconds, a bullet fired by Officer Joseph Weekly struck Ayanna in the head, killing her instantly. The officer claimed the gun discharged accidentally after a struggle, but witnesses said he just fired blindly into the darkened home. No one was ever convicted for her death. Ayanna would have turned 25 this year, a haunting reminder of how a child's life was tragically cut short in a moment meant for TV. In the early 1980s, South Korean photographer Lee Dong-sik was convicted of murdering a woman just so he could photograph her dying. Reports from a Korean newspaper say he met the victim, gave her a drink laced with potassium cyanide, and took more than 20 photographs as she slowly died in agony. During questioning, he claimed he wanted to capture the moment of death as part of his art. He was soon arrested, charged with her murder, and executed 4 years later. Morbid Facts, Part 263. On the left is the last known photograph of Australian sea kayaker Andrew McGauley. In January of 2007, he attempted a 1,000-mile journey to cross the Tasman Sea but was never seen again. 1 month after he embarked, Andrew's damaged kayak was found just 30 miles from his destination. His body was never recovered, but his camera's memory stick was found inside the kayak and contained these final images. Binky the polar bear lived in the Alaska Zoo in Anchorage for decades. In 1994, he mauled 2 visitors who jumped over the safety rails on 2 separate occasions. After the maulings, the zoo sold Binky merchandise with the slogan, "Send another tourist, the last one got away." In 1976, Stomatis Moritis from Greece was diagnosed with lung cancer and told he only had 9 months to live. But 10 years later, he returned to the doctors to show them that he was still alive, only to find out that he'd outlived all of them. He ended up beating the doctor's predictions by 37 years, finally dying at age 102. Morbid Facts, Part 670. While filming Black Panther and other Marvel movies, Chadwick Boseman was secretly undergoing intensive treatment for stage 3 colon cancer, enduring surgeries and constant chemotherapy between shoots. Even most of the cast and crew had no idea that Chadwick was sick. He kept his diagnosis completely private, sharing it only with a small circle of family, his producing partner, and a few close confidants. Despite the pain and exhaustion, Boseman still continued to visit children with cancer at St. Jude's Hospital. Many of the kids he visited passed away before Chadwick did, never knowing that their hero was also fighting the same battle. In November of 1990, Life magazine published this haunting photo of AIDS activist David Kirby on his deathbed, surrounded by his grieving family in an Ohio hospital. Captured by photographer Therese Frere, the image became known as the photo that changed the face of AIDS. It humanized the epidemic at a time when stigma and fear were rampant, showing the devastating personal toll of the disease. With his family's consent, the photo was shared globally, sparking empathy, outrage, and awareness, ultimately helping to shift the public perception of AIDS. Morbid Facts, Part 285. Arnold Schwarzenegger had a brother named Maynard who was favored by their Nazi father but died in a drunk driving crash when he was 24. Arnold didn't attend his brother's funeral nor his father's. When French King Louis XVI was executed in 1793, he was so fat that the guillotine required 2 attempts to fully decapitate him. In 1980, a Las Vegas hospital had to suspend a number of workers for betting on when patients would die. One nurse was even accused of murdering a patient so that she would win. In 1989, a primary school teacher in the small village of Miyakoji, Japan made an alarming discovery during a bathroom break. A black leather shoe was floating beneath the toilet bowl. Upon investigating further, she found a man's body in the sewer tank outside. Somehow the man had managed to squeeze through the 14-inch septic tank opening, likely attempting to peer up the toilet while women were using it. He apparently got stuck there and eventually passed away from hypothermia.